You ever just feel completely drained by the search for love? Or even by being in love? If that sounds familiar, you are definitely not alone. In our always-on world, this feeling is real, and it has a name. So today, we're going to dive into the psychology of dating burnout and relationship fatigue. Oof, that quote really hits home, doesn't it? It's that feeling when something that used to be so exciting, like a new text or thinking about a date, now just feels like a chore. That deep down exhaustion, that's exactly what we're here to unpack.
So, what exactly is this whole love on empty thing? Well, it really starts with figuring out if you're just in a temporary rough patch or if it's something a little deeper.
And that's the big question, right? You feel off, tired, disconnected. But is this just a phase, a slump, or is it a sign that something is fundamentally off track? The answer, it turns out, really depends on where that exhaustion is coming from.
Okay, so if you're out there dating, you might be dealing with what psychologists call dating fatigue. And look, this is way more than just being sick of swiping left. It's that emotional whiplash, getting your hopes up for someone and then poof, they ghost you. Or you go on a perfectly fine date and it just fizzles into nothing. That up and down cycle, man, that is what just completely drains your battery. And hey, this isn't just for people on the dating scene. If you're in a relationship, this can show up as relationship burnout. You know what I'm talking about. That slow, steady drain. Maybe it's from fighting all the time, or feeling like you're just not being heard, or honestly, just the day-to-day stress of life piling up. The crazy thing is, the love might still be there. It's just buried under this huge mountain of pure exhaustion.
Here's a good way to think about it. Imagine your relationship is a car you absolutely love. Burnout doesn't mean you want to take it to the junkyard. Not at all. It just means the gas tank is on empty and maybe the engine needs a good tune-up. It's a resource problem, not an affection problem. Okay, so if the tank's empty, we got to ask what's causing the leak, right? To figure that out, we need to get into the psychology of it all. What is it about modern love that just feels so draining? And the answer goes way beyond just saying, oh, dating is hard. Nope. It's way deeper than that. It's all about these specific psychological things that happen to us, often totally under the radar, in response to how we date today. One of the big ideas here is something called subclinical trauma. Now, this isn't about one big, dramatic heartbreak. Think of it more like death by 1,000 cuts. It's the nonstop ghosting, the confusing what are we situationships, all those little rejections that pile up. And over time, that buildup literally teaches our nervous system to protect itself by just going numb. Now, this kind of environment can be a real minefield, especially for people with what's called an avoidant attachment style. These are folks who just naturally get a little uncomfortable when things get too close. And the total chaos of dating apps, it basically rewards their instinct to pull back. Psychologists call these deactivating strategies, like suddenly starting to pick apart your partner's flaws or getting that overwhelming urge for space the second things start getting real. And when this cycle repeats itself over and over and over again, it can lead to something called learned helplessness. I mean, after enough first dates that go absolutely nowhere, your brain just starts to think, what's the point? It starts to believe that nothing you do will make a difference. So you stop trying. You pull back, not because you're apathetic, but because you've basically been trained to believe that trying is useless. So all of this exhaustion, it builds up to this massive, critical question, especially if you're in a relationship. Are you just burned out? Or have you actually fallen out of love? Because on the outside, they can look exactly the same, but the answer? Well, it changes absolutely everything. Yeah, I mean, on the surface, the signs are pretty much identical, right? You're less intimate, there's more distance. It's so confusing. But what's going on inside, your internal experience, that's where the real difference is. So let's break down how to tell them apart. Okay, so take a look at these questions. This is a really helpful way to check in with yourself. And notice the big difference here. With burnout, the emotions are still there. They're just intense and often negative. You feel angry, or the idea of losing them is terrifying. Deep down, you wish you just had the energy to fix it. But falling out of love, that's all about the lack of emotion. It's indifference, neutrality, maybe even relief. Honestly, if you only ask yourself one of these questions, make it this one, and trust your gut reaction. That's the key. If the thought devastates you, that love is still in there, fighting. But if you feel relief, well, that might mean it's already packed its bags. So, if the diagnosis is burnout, what's the cure? Well, for a lot of people, the answer isn't to hustle harder or try more. It's actually the complete opposite. It's about mastering the art of stepping back. And this isn't about giving up. It's a powerful, intentional choice. So why would someone consciously stop chasing love? Well, think of it like a strategic retreat. It's a chance to focus on a different relationship, the one you have with yourself. It's about taking all that energy you were spending on swiping and dating and pouring it back into your own growth, your own healing, and getting clear on what you want. Really, it's about getting to a place where you know your self-worth comes from you, not from someone else's approval. And that's the big mindset shift right there. Stepping back isn't about being bitter or putting up walls. It's actually a sign of emotional intelligence. It's you recognizing that your energy is not infinite and deciding that you are the best investment you can possibly make.
You know, when you start to make that choice, it naturally makes you think differently about what it means to be single. For so long, society has had this really limited, kind of negative take on singlehood. But thankfully, that's really starting to change.
If you look back, even psychology kind of treated being single as a relationship deficit, like it was a problem that needed to be fixed. This whole viewpoint sees single people not as whole on their own, but just as people who are not in a relationship yet.
But the new way of thinking is so much smarter. It gets that being single isn't just one thing. It's not this uniform state of being. It's a super diverse journey, and people are on it for all kinds of different reasons. In fact, researchers are now breaking it down into different types. You've got autonomous singles who are single by choice because they value their freedom and personal growth. Then you have passive singles who aren't happy about it but feel kind of stuck. The main takeaway is that you just can't lump everyone together anymore. It's just not accurate. The experience is way too varied for that.
And what all this does, stepping back, redefining singlehood, it gets you to a place where a relationship becomes something you want, not something you need. See the difference? You go from needing someone else to validate you to making a choice from a place of strength. And that foundation of personal strength is where the healthiest connections are almost always built.
So that leaves us with one last question to think about. In this nonstop race to find a partner, is it possible we've lost sight of the real finish line? In this age of burnout, maybe, just maybe, the most important search isn't for another person. Maybe it's about finally and completely finding ourselves.